Good old Battlefield, the video game series equivalent to someone's petulant 7-year-old brother who constantly thinks he can beat up his siblings. Every Battlefield game I've played has been a concerted effort by DICE to pander to the lowest common denominator, with its only justification for existence being found in its multiplayer. After doing Bad Company 2, 3, and 4, I thought that this series was going to be inevitably condemned to the background of Call of Duty, along with the other rip-off shysters. But then Visceral Games got involved. Those guys that done made those Dead Space games a couple of times. Let's get this out of the way early. Yes, it was admirable that Electronic Arts would have bothered to bring out a major video game where the main characters are police officers in the year 2015. And for the game's credit, it manages to not be completely racist like Battlefield 4 was, and it does portray a somewhat realistic view of the minority criminal types that would exist in a drug-fueled Miami. For most of the game, the police shown are doing somewhat legitimate things and shows of excessive force are minimalized in a way. To put a pin in the whole racism dodging part of this review, let's just say that the game goes for a police drama type of setting that shouldn't piss off the Black Lives Matters folks too much. Mostly because there are other things that the player can get justifiably pissed off about. Like I said, Battlefield Hardline is your basic nuts and bolts police drama, and if this were a TV show, then it would have been a blip on the radar. But since this is a video game, it manages to be unique and interesting in a series that had been face down in the water mumbling curse words and racial epithets. Obviously, games like Battlefield 3 have tried to stand out by putting in cinematic bits in their intros, but then immediately back down from that to become a regular video game because DICE didn't try hard enough to make it truly cinematic. Battlefield Hardline achieves that lofty goal by designing the game into episodic missions where the TV-style cinematics play out regularly enough to keep the player engaged as the story progresses. This entry in the series is about a regular Joe type of police officer named Nick Mendoza, a child of Cuban immigrants serving the citizens of Miami, in an alternate universe where the city has been hit with a massive influx of drugs and therefore violence. And keeping to that police drama type of plot, the unit where Mendoza works is seemingly comprised of only 4 people. Mendoza's new partner Kai, his ex-partner Stoddard, and the chief officer Dawes. Together, the 4 begin investigating the pseudo-drug called Hotshot that's been circulating and finding out who's the guy in charge of circulation. Another point that Battlefield Hardline does well in is actually having 3-dimensional characters instead of the expected cardboard cutouts holding firearms and shouting constantly. The characters interact, they have flaws and stances on the work they're doing, and the performances are amazingly done to get you immersed into a plot that ends up going sideways in an incredibly obvious manner. Throughout the game's first act, the evidence collected begins showing that there's a larger gang at large pushing Hotshot into the Miami market, and that requires Mendoza and Kai to round up low-level drug-peddling nitwits to wriggle their way into the cartel ladder, until it turns out that the person controlling Miami's drug trade was Chief Officer Dawes and the rest of the Miami police force looking to take a piece of that sweet, corrupting dollar pie. The double cross to set up Act 2 of Hardline wasn't as obvious as your usual modern warfare game because Mendoza's unit had already done the double cross fake out before this as a sort of not really joke to see if they could trust the new guy. However, Mendoza's police career is brought to a screeching halt by Dawes planting a ton of drugs on Mendoza, and he's arrested for a crime he didn't commit. A crime from which he escapes his jail transport thanks to a drug dealer's life he had saved during his investigations. Mendoza is brought into the drug dealer's group on the lam in order to bring down Dawes and expose him as the peddling son of a bitch that he is. Shortly thereafter, Kai is brought into Mendoza's criminal posse as working for Dawes has become too risky since he's been pushing for a privatized police force that he believes will make the work more efficient to stop crime. An idea so completely ridiculous that I couldn't believe anyone would take it seriously until I realized that this is the year 2016 that I'm writing this frickin' script in, so, who knows? The rest of the game is essentially those plan the heist missions from GTA 5 except written 500 times better, and it lasts about 30 times as long. Mendoza steals a safe-cracking robot, recruits a criminal IT guy, and they storm Dawes' corporate skyscraper looking for conviction evidence and possibly some sweet cheddar from his private stash. Then the game turns into a God of War-style revenge scheme after Dawes pulled an elaborate trap on Mendoza's team, culminating in shooting the son of a bitch in the face and a TV-style open-ended ending that doesn't really tell the viewer much of anything. This game could easily be made into a TV drama that spans 2 seasons with cheap double crosses and sexy intrigues, yet it works more in Battlefield Hardline because typical TV drama is 12 steps up from the quality of game you'd usually expect carrying the EA branding. However, while the story is involving, fun, and expertly crafted, the truer surprise of Hardline is that the combat is amazing. Rather than seeing your typical corridor cover yourself and shoot the bad man's gameplay that every Modern Warfare game ever tries to go for, Hardline decided to be a stealth game disguised as an FPS. It's insane that this is a Battlefield game in which shooting everyone in the face ends up being the bad option, and instead the player has to sneak around multiple guards and security feature and get the most points by silently arresting everyone. The game also gives you a suite of useful stealth tools to finish the jobs like a grappling hook, trip mines, bulletproof vests, and the most important tool of all, shell casings. No, seriously, one of the buttons in Hardline is mapped to throw the shell casings, which can be used infinitely to distract guards, and it's the most intuitive gadget of them all. What pokes a hole in this, though, is that to get the arrest done in Hardline requires you to pull Mendoza's badge on suspects, and throughout the game where Mendoza gets jailed twice, why the hell did both the corrupt Miami police force and some redneck morons in the middle of nowhere allow him to keep that, and also who the hell is picking up the people that Mendoza arrests throughout the game where he's part of a criminal outfit? Is the secret police of America just walking around and taking into custody people who just happen to be tied up and unconscious? I guess those guys deserve it for some reason, but that's not the point. The game also comes with investigation gameplay that amounts to the player being told by the game that there is a highlighted object, and then use a scanner to find those objects, and then through those scattered document trope things, Mendoza is able to unlock fluff text about the investigation and earn additional weapons for use in the multiplayer and experience points for some other stuff that I don't really care about. There are also special arrest targets that are worth 4 times as much to be taken down rather than be shot in the face. And of course, there's a point in the game where Mendoza is inexplicably able to commandeer a tank to shoot down helicopters. This is a Battlefield game, so obviously military vehicle sections were going to be in there somewhere, in a game mostly dealing with a normal person cop doing normal person cop things. Now, all of these stealth game type things would make you think that EA, Visceral, and DICE were all fully committed to the type of game that they were making, but considering I was able to hit the game's level cap right around the halfway mark of the first campaign attempt, makes me think that EA was expecting most people playing this game to not try and just go straight to the shoot the bad men's in the face strategy. Which seems really weird since the actual punishments for getting caught in this game are pretty damn harsh. If you get pinned down by 2 enemies in this game, they can easily kill you outright and make you repeat the entire section a second time because the player's health is surprisingly low in this game, even with the bulletproof vest. And while that's an annoying part of the stealth game, since the levels and gameplay were spectacularly well crafted out of actual challenge and not diamond encrusted monkey shit, it gets a lot of props from a guy who's played 12 different Metal Gear games. Battlefield Hardline is the oddball title that EA trotted out to the marketplace that surprisingly didn't follow the company's usual formula of just copying whatever was popular at the time, and is possibly the result of one of the company's rare realizations that not every one of their ideas is 10 out of 10 grade material. The studio decided to bring on Visceral Games, of which the decision to become a police procedural game came from, and it was supported by DICE, and was also conversely managed by them, yet most of the actual development came from Electronic Arts themselves, making Battlefield Hardline one of the weirdest developed games I've ever seen. In spite of this organizational nonsense, the 3 partners ended up making a game that proved that there was still some hope for this pandering franchise after all, and that someone in EA's massively overmanaged group thinkers still thought that putting work into the single player was an investment worth taking, and with that green light, the gaming industry managed to get one of the most unique shooters of that year. And I will give it all the props in my trunk if we can get this type of Electronic Arts work in the future, instead of the shitheads who made Medal of Honor Warfighter, since this is the type of game that demands respect. Okay then, let's clip a final scoreboard to this thing. And put out a quick victory for gamers before Mendoza crashes through a window and arrests us both. Thanks for watching, non-drug dealing viewers.